I'm Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., and this is how to get your money right. On this segment of How to Get Your Money Right, we welcome attorney Markwei Boye, who is the president and CEO of the law offices of Markwei Boye, PLLC. Attorney Boye, thank you for joining How to Get Your Money Right.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you're a professional tax lawyer, tax consultant, a mentor to people to try to avoid them from having tax problems. But also, a lot of your clients are people who've already got themselves in tax problems. So one of the first things I want to ask you, how important it is, from your perspective, for business people, but I would also say the general public, to know tax law.
It is very critical because I always tell my clients, it is not about how much you make that matters. It is about how much you keep that matters. And all how much you keep is all based on what tax strategies you employ. So if you understand tax law and you are able to use all the strategies that is buried in the tax law, that's how you save more money, and that's how you become wealthy.
So tell us about your upbringing. You initially born in Ghana.
Yes.
You immigrated to the United States. You worked yourself through college and then through law school. Why did you choose tax law as a profession?
The reason why I chose tax law was because, I took a lot of finance and accounting classes. What actually sparked my interest was tax law, because when I started reading more about tax law, I realized it wasn't about math, it wasn't about calculation, but it was all about strategy, and strategies that you can employ to make myself or clients wealthy. And I said, this is the place I need to be, not only for myself, but I want to be able to help small businesses to achieve the highest level that they can possibly be. And that's really what drove me into that space.
So one of the pathways to wealth building is knowing the legal strategies.
Yes. It is. The tax law is embedded with a lot of strategies. And the more you are able to employ those strategies, the less taxes you pay and the more money you keep. Because let's face the fact, when we get into business, we want to be successful. And when we become successful, we want to be able to save money and pass it on as our legacy to our children. Now, if you allow the federal government to eat up all your money, not only are you not going to be successful, you have no legacy to pass on to the future generation. So part of creating wealth is knowing what the tax law will allow and not allow. And that, I think, is a game changer.
So today, it's my understanding that you spend a significant amount of your time giving people tax counseling, tax assistance, particularly after they've gotten themselves in trouble with tax laws. How can people prevent themselves from getting in a tax situation? And then I want to talk to you about what some of your advice may be to those who are already in trouble.
Taxes is about strategy. And the way the tax code is written has a lot of technical jargons in it that the ordinary person can never understand. There are some tax attorneys, CPAs, and enrolled agents that cannot even understand it because it is that complex. And it's a lot.
Is it complex and complicated deliberately, or is it just a matter of how tax code has grown over the years?
I think, actually, I say both. I think it's deliberate because most people don't like to read. And for most people as well, they don't seek the help of a tax professional. So they cruise through what they know. What they know is not good enough because within that code is countless amount of strategies that you can employ to make a person pay less taxes, especially when it comes to small businesses. But they usually don't seek professional help, and they always try to do everything based on their own understanding. And what I think happens is it robs them of their future financial stability. And so what I tell most people is be good at what you do and hire a professional to do the rest for you because, again, the code is written in such a complex way that the ordinary person cannot understand it. And so that's really the problem.
The code that you're referring to, this is the federal tax code?
Yeah, the Internal Revenue Manual. It's very, very complex and it's vast. And so if you seek a professional, they will be able to give you the nuances about what strategies you can employ to make your life a whole lot easier in terms of paying lower taxes. And that's really what I do in my practice, giving clients high-end strategies to make them pay less taxes.
To avoid problems, what kind of financial records should people endeavor to keep?
The card is always the best means of keeping good records because once you swipe the card, it triggers a record on your statement. Now, the fact that it triggers a record on your statement does not necessarily mean that expense is deductible. And that's the illusion that some people have. So if you swipe that card, you have to know for sure that it will be a deductible expense. If you meet any of these three criteria, ordinary, necessary, and helpful, what is in your statement is deductible by law. And it clearly stated in the IRS manual. That is the best effective way of keeping records.
As a professional, how much percentage of your time today is counseling people who've gotten themselves in trouble with the tax laws?
I would say 50-50. And I say that because the ideal situation for everybody is to learn the strategies, learn how to follow the rules and the laws so that you don't get yourself in trouble in the first place.
Okay, but in order to do what you just said, you need professional help.
I think you do.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody is born with tax inclination.
Absolutely not. And again, the law is so complicated, it is even difficult for professionals to even grasp all of it. And so every day we are learning, we're researching, because you might come across a case that you have never seen before. The good thing is we have the tools and the resources to go and find what solution is best for that taxpayer.
So what you bring to a client is not only what a CPA brings, but you're a lawyer.
Yes.
So it's the law that governs the tax code.
A lot of people think tax is about numbers. Actually, it isn't. Taxes is pure law. It's absolutely pure law. When it comes to math, the software will do that for you. So the key is the software doing what it's supposed to do?
Right.
That's where the problem comes in. Would the software be intuitive enough to decide what strategy is good for you? Those things are
so
not there.
You just said something very profound, that the tax law, that the tax code is primarily law, not primarily arithmetic.
100%, because guess what? When it comes to strategy, math has nothing to do with it. it's all about what type of strategy can I employ to be able to get this deduction to reduce my tax liability altogether. What I just said has nothing to do with math.
Okay.
Absolutely not. It's all about pure law and how you apply the law to the program to get you the results that you want.
Explain to our audience the difference between a tax deduction and a tax credit.
Excellent question. Tax deduction is what essentially tax deduction is a item that the law says you can deduct against your income. So you take your deduction, you subtract it from your income, and then you come to your taxable income. Now, a credit is totally different because a credit does not actually reduce your tax liability, but it can come to you dollar to dollar in terms of a refund. So when you take a standard deduction or an itemized deduction because you own a home, that deduction is taken out of your income before you get taxed. However, if you have a credit, the credit can actually eat up all your taxable income, and that will result in you getting a refund or owing a whole lot less. So between a deduction and a credit, which one do you want? Credit all day.
Well, you know, I know a lot of businesses seek tax credits.
Of course.
But,
for that precise reason.
Yes, I understand. For young people who are watching today's program, and for those who may not be so young, what are the first steps that one should consider if they want to go into business or if they're in business right now to make sure that they are adhering to current tax law?
Okay, that's excellent. Let me get into why you should go into business and what type of business do you have to get into. I believe that the business you get into is all about passion. You have to like what you do, and you do it, and when you are doing it, it doesn't seem like it's work. That's how I feel when I'm doing tax law. Mm-hmm. It doesn't come to me like it's work. It seems like I'm having fun, but I'm having fun and making money at the same time. So I believe that passion of what you really like to do will come across when people meet you for your services. Michael Jordan would not do anything better than basketball. Any profession he goes into, I don't think he probably would do well as he is in basketball because that was his passion. And he stuck with that passion and look at where he is now. So that's one thing. The second thing is business owners have to learn how to focus because there's so much distraction in this society. And it's easy for you to get distracted from your mission. So you have to learn to stay focused on what your agenda is and don't get distracted from friends and family because it is so easy for you to get distracted. And then 3, small business owners that want to get into business have to seek the help of professionals because the initial stages of starting their business is very critical. Knowing all the do's and the don'ts is very, very
at the beginning.
At the beginning, because you need to know all of that. For instance, what type of entities should I set up? Do I need to set up a sole proprietorship? What are the advantages and the disadvantages? Or do I need to set up a partnership? What is the advantages and the disadvantages? Or do I need to set up a S corporation or a C corporation? So, or a limited liability company. Those decisions are very critical because it will determine how much taxes you have to pay and what type of strategies can you employ.
So, passion, focus, getting professional help at the beginning of the business.
At the beginning of the business. And the reason why I say at the beginning of the business is because most people, for some weird reason, will go to YouTube, go to TikTok, Instagram, and try to get advice from people who are not qualified professionals. And unfortunately, a lot of people actually take heed to what those folks are saying. The fact is, what they are saying may be true, but how to implement what they are saying requires a step-by-step law. And that's when the real falls all apart and get some of these folks into trouble. So seek professional help so that they can guide you through the proper channel to get the best advantage you can ever seek.
So there are advantages of getting professional help.
I strongly believe that.
And
yes.
there are disadvantages from getting help from people who don't know what they're talking about.
And you'll be surprised. There's a lot. And again, in my office, I see a lot of people that come in after the fact when everything has fallen apart. And what I hear from them is, oh, I know this guy, he calls himself a professional. He was on TikTok and he was explaining all these concepts and it sounds so good. And so I went along with it. And then I realized that what he was saying or she was saying is not true. And here I am, IRS is knocking on my door and I'm in your office right now. And now you're telling me what the person said is partially true, but the law, the implementation of the law is totally different.
So, Attorney Boye, you are licensed in all 50 states.
I'm licensed in the state of Michigan for the law aspect of it. I am also an enrolled agent, which is a specialized license given by the Internal Revenue Service, and that allows me to practice in all 50 states.
All 50 states.
Yes.
According to the United States Department of Commerce, the U.S. economy is still driven by small businesses. What percentage of the small businesses that you consult with are in line with the current tax law, and what is the percentage that need help to get in line?
I'm not sure whether I can give you percentages, but I can tell you
from your experience,
my experience and my observation when people come to my office. Usually when they come to my office, they have an idea about what they want to do because that's their skill set. They have that in place. But what structure do they have to use? They have no idea. What type of deductions can they take? They have no idea. What type of strategies can they employ to lower their tax liability? They have no idea. So what I do in my consultation is, one, I get to see what their vision is, and then based on their vision and their skill set, I'm able to tailor what type of structure, what type of deductions can they take to help minimize their tax liability. So that's primarily what most people come to my office for.
You know, there was a time when people were not only redlining in housing, but redlining in bank loans. From your professional view, is the pendulum swinging in the right direction, or is it still kind of stationary?
I would say it's stationary, but the reason why most of the time small businesses are not able to get funding is because of lack of knowledge on certain aspects of their business. So let me give you an example. For most small businesses, when they file their taxes, their goal is not to pay a lot of taxes. So they have their income, they have all these expenses, so their net profit is practically nothing. And then you go before the bank trying to get this large sum of money, but your net profit indicates that even if they give you this loan, you cannot repay it. So most of the time the bank will say no. That's one of the main reasons where small businesses are denied. The second reason is because small businesses have to develop a habit of having a bookkeeping system. Unfortunately, some small business owners don't have a good bookkeeping system. So when they go before the bank, their books are all over the place. However, if you have a good bookkeeping system where you are able to keep track of all your income and all your expenses, you will be able to have a more precise and concise profit and loss statement that will give the banker, the ability to evaluate whether you will be able to get a loan. Number three, small business owners don't know how to pay themselves, or do they even have to pay themselves, right? So,
or when to pay themselves.
Or when to pay themselves. Most of them don't have that clue. So they commingle their personal and their business accounts.
Which you should not do.
Which you should not do. The two have to be completely separated. Personal to personal, business to business. So what ended up happening is they have a personal bill and they are using their business account to pay for it. So by the time you get to the banker sees all this commingling and cannot even make a sense out of it. And so when the risk is there, most banks, they just try to avoid it. And so they will not extend the loan to the small business owner. So being prepared is very, very important.
So financial literacy is also very important for those who want to go into business.
Of course, because now that is very critical, because you knowing your skill set of what you do is not good enough, because you have to learn how to run a business. How do you hire people? How do you pay them? What type of pay systems do you have to use? Do you have to give yourself a 1099, which is technically you are self-employed, or do you have to pay them through a W-2? There are rules that the government has put in place for a small business to determine whether the new hires should be a W-2 or a 1099. If you don't follow those rules, there are hefty repercussions for the small business owner to pay. And this is part of the consultation that when they come to my office, I'm trying to explain to them all these rules and how it pertains to them. You issue a 1099. Well, if you issue a 1099 to an independent contractor, you have to give them the 1099 by January the 31st. You also have to send that 1099 to the IRS so that the IRS can have a record of it. So when you deduct it on your taxes, IRS wants to see a proof that you actually did pay. And if they see that you have sent all the 1099 in, they'll be able to match it to your tax return, and there is no issue. So those are critical things that every small business owner has to know. Unfortunately, they learn it the hard way when they are being audited, and at which point it's too late.
Attorney Boye, our whole thing for this program is how to get your money right. But seems you're also saying how to get your tax law right will help you to get your money right.
100%. That's the essence of it all. Because if you are in business and you just making money, but you don't see any of the money at the end of the day, your money is not right, because you can afford to do all the things you anticipate to do because your money is not right. And so tax law cuts through almost everything. When you go through a divorce, there is tax law involved in it. When you go through bankruptcy, there is tax law in it. When you go through estate planning because you want to leave your family some money or legacy, tax law cuts through it. tax law cuts through everything, if you think about it. And the more you understand it, the better you are, because it is very complicated.
Attorney Markwei Boye, thank you for joining How to Get Your Money Right.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.